Great. Thanks, Corrine. Hello, everyone. And we really appreciate you taking time out of your day to join us to get an update on our 2015 release schedule for our Autodesk titles. Our development teams has completed the 2014 release cycle just over the last few weeks. So now with no rest for the weary, it's time to get going all over again. So Paul's going to give you some highlights on all those titles in just a minute. But I just wanted to mention that, again, this year ASCENT is the sole provider of the Autodesk official training guides. Our team began working with the 2015 beta versions a few months ago so that several titles would be ready as soon as the software began shipping. They've also worked with Autodesk to get updates on the certification objectives and other information that needed to be included. And our end goal is always to give you some lead time as you begin reviewing new material and prepping for your classes in case you have those scheduled pretty soon. So that's why we really push to have the core titles, the fundamental level titles out when the software is released, if we can do that. Over the course of the coming year, we're going to be releasing well over 65 titles, probably much closer to 70, maybe beyond that when all is said and done. We're going to have some new titles, so keep an eye out for those coming. And just by providing a library of more advanced and specialized titles, in addition to the fundamental kind of core titles, we can give you more of a single source solution for your Autodesk official training courseware. So we just wanted to mention that to you. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and turn it over to Paul to start the update.
Great. Thanks very much, Rhonda, and good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Paul Burden. I'm the Director of Product Development for the ASCENT team, and we're very pleased, again, as Corrine and Rhonda mentioned, to have a number of our development team on the call with us today, and we're going to ask them to join in at various points through the call and give us some updates on some of the changes that have been incorporated and made into the training guides for the 2015 version. Just on the slide here, I've got Barb Nash, who will be talking to our Vault titles, Martha Hollowell, who looks after all of our Revit courseware. Jennifer McMillan is responsible for our manufacturing training guides. Lisa Kemp is responsible for our AutoCAD. Renu Mathu is responsible for our 3ds Max design, as well as some of the specialized AutoCAD titles like electrical and mechanical. And Michelle Rasmussen is responsible for our Civil 3D and our infrastructure courseware. So each of these ladies will join in as we go along here. What I'll do is I'll just highlight on each category or group of courses some of the titles that are released or about to be released, and talk about some of the dates, and also have the authors speak to some of the changes. So I'll come back to this slide in just a minute, but I'm going to turn it over first to Lisa Kemp, who can just give us an update on some of the changes to expect in the AutoCAD courseware.
Hello. The AutoCAD 2015 Fundamentals and AutoCAD 2015 Update for 2013-14 Users Training Guides have been thoroughly reviewed, and the lecture and practice materials have been improved and corrected as needed. All of the feedback that we received about the 2014 training guide has been addressed when the 2015 training guides were updated. The AutoCAD interface for 2015 has been redesigned and displays by default in a dark gray color scheme. But a light gray color scheme is also available and was used in the training guides so that the images are as clear as possible for printing purposes. So all of the images in the guides have been replaced because of the interface changes, and captions have also been added where needed to further clarify the images. The ribbon and status bar have also changed. The ribbon contains new, rearranged, or renamed tabs, some renamed panels, and modified icon images. The status bar has been consolidated into one bar and moved to the lower right in the interface. The coordinates and some of the icons from the 2014 version are not displayed by default in the status bar, but you can customize it to display them as needed. And all of the references to the ribbon and status bar have been updated throughout the book. When the software is started, the welcome menu has been replaced with the new tab, which provides access to creating and opening drawings and connecting to AutoCAD 360. References to this have also been changed throughout the guides. Object selection has been revised and now includes a lasso option, which works in both the window and crossing directions and enables you to select objects by drawing a shape rather than a rectangle.
Hello, Don Barrett.
Some commands such as erase and rotate now display an icon called a badge at the crosshairs, indicating that you're in a specific command. A line also displays connecting the preview to the base point, and the original objects are grayed out. Blocks and annotation styles and tables are now displayed in galleries in the ribbon, which are drop-down lists that show previews of the blocks, and you can drag and drop objects from the gallery to the drawing. And all of this has been updated throughout the book. Model space viewports can now be modified and added to by dragging their boundaries, and the active viewport displays a blue border. In the AutoCAD 3D Modeling and Drawing Training Guide, a topic is going to be added about the new isometric drawing environment, which switches the grid and crosshair display to the required isometric view so that you can draw in that orientation more easily. Also in that training guide, under geographic location, maps are accessed using Autodesk 360 and online maps. But when you're using the online maps, you also have the option to download the map to be able to use it offline. And the practice and lecture material will be adjusted to suit the new methodology. In the AutoCAD update for 2013-14 users, the point cloud lecture material and practice have been changed because point clouds can no longer be created in the AutoCAD software. You have to use the Autodesk Recap software to create them, and AutoCAD now only works with RCP and RCS file formats. So the icons for the point clouds have been moved around to different tabs and renamed, and the point cloud contextual tab has also been changed. So that has all been updated in that book. And that is what has changed in the training guides for AutoCAD 2015. So back to you, Paul.
Great. Thank you very much, Lisa. So as Lisa mentioned, in terms of the titles that we have released today, she mentioned the AutoCAD update for AutoCAD 2013 and 2014 users. So we'll cover enhancements that were introduced from 2013 onward in this training guide. And for those of you delivering training, that'll be about a one-day long course. Additionally, we've released our fundamentals training course for AutoCAD 2015 and also the essentials and beyond the basics versions of that fundamentals course. The release of that training guide covers what we refer to as mixed units, so it has a combination of imperial and metric units. We'll also be releasing a metric-only version of that training guide. We have, for fundamentals, anticipating a release in the next few weeks in May. Additionally, we'll have our advanced courses and our 3D drawing and modeling courses. They're scheduled for release over the summer. And again, this year we'll have both the mixed units version of those training guides as well as the metric. And then the last one that's on this slide here is the AutoCAD Raster Design Essentials Training Guide. We've got that slated for a fall release as of right now. All of these dates we publish on our website. Right on the home page, you'll find a link for our development or release roadmap. And so those dates that I'm showing on the screen here now correspond to what's in that roadmap, but we update it on a regular basis, so we always encourage you to check back because we do adjust those dates if we get a good run on some of these courses. That'll enable us to release some of the later ones a little earlier than we'd anticipated. Okay, next up is going to be our building and architecture category. And again, before I go into the dates here, I'll invite Martha Hollowell, who looks after the training guides for Revit Architecture, MEP, and Structure, to give us an update on what to expect in those.
Thanks, Paul. So first of all, I want to talk about a little bit of a number of things that are new in our fundamentals training guides. Mainly what I've done in this particular case is modify some of the chapter organization. So a couple of things that you'll find, especially in Revit Architecture, all of the basic drawing and modify tools have now been put in the same chapter. This was already there in MEP and Structure, so this is now going to be like it. And we did added practice in there that's covering the split, trim, offset, excuse me, some of the various things that are covered now in that chapter. In all the disciplines, we looked at the flow of the topics and practices in each chapter. So instead of a bunch of topics with a practice at the end, we can now spread the practices out. A good example is our vertical circulation chapter. Before, it was all the topics, and then you went ahead and started working. Now we've got it so that you learn about component stairs and you have a practice. You learn about railings separate from stairs and you have a practice. You learn about sketching custom stairs and creating ramps and you have a practice. And that practice is actually new and it's on the top picture in the slide as you can see right now. Also in Revit Architecture, I moved components before floors, ceilings, and roofs. And that's because the floor, ceilings, and roofs all have very similar methodologies. So we wanted them all together, so components and then floors. In Revit MEP, we've done a major revision to the systems chapter, mainly that there's more practices there. We've moved some of the more complex items to the appendix. They really weren't needed, especially not that early in the class. So I really believe that systems chapter has been fixed to work a lot more smoothly as an early chapter in the book. Revit Structure, we've actually changed to a 4-day class. So what happened was we had feedback that this was a very full class for 3 days. And as we were working out all the different things that we needed, we have covered now a lot of Revit Structure Advanced in our advanced training guides. So our BIM training guide has families and schedules and templates, and collaboration tools now is available for all disciplines. So instead of having that information in an advanced, separate Structure Advanced class, you can get that information in our BIM management class as well as the collaboration tools. The existing Structure Advanced book also had 2 things that we did put into fundamentals. One of those is trusses and the other is structural analysis. So you will find a variety of things that are needed. Also, we expanded it to a 4-day class because of that. Now, a couple of new things that are new in Revit 2015. Some of these are very small, but they're just wonderful. These are things you wished you had from the very beginning. First of all, double-click outside of a viewport to deactivate. Before, you could double-click inside it, so you're in a sheet. You double-click inside the viewport, fine. Well, to get out, you had to right-click or go to the ribbon or something else. So now you can actually just double-click outside the viewport to deactivate the view on the sheet. There's also new naming for duplicate views. Again, this might not be something you would have looked for, but it makes life a whole lot easier when the name of the view starts with the same name. So instead of copy of level 1, you now have level 1 copy. Much more useful naming scheme. Another thing that's you may not notice very much but is very powerful, you cannot delete a pinned element now. It used to be a warning would come up and then you could delete it, but that's no longer true. A warning comes up, you can't delete it. You have to unpin it before you can delete the pinned element. Another one of the basic tools that's very important and a new change to that is the trim extend multiple. Before you had to select each and every item you wanted to trim or extend. But now you can use a crossing window and grab a bunch of them at the same time. In schedules, this will be in our advanced book, you can now put images in schedules, and this is beyond just the title. There were images available in the title before, but this is now in the actual schedule main part of it. So, for example, a lighting fixture schedule, you can actually have pictures of each of the different lighting fixtures along with all the other information that it's gathered from the items. And the elements are actually the ones that hold the image. So it's just like another type property of what's in there. When you are creating your own families or parameters in any case, you can now add tooltips for parameters. So that's a very helpful tool as you are customizing more. There are manage links improvements. Specifically, you can add another link from within the manage links dialog box. Makes it a little bit easier to work there. Another one is IFC importing, so it's a much more robust import that they have now. All of those are available for any version of Revit, but the last one, Sketchy Lines, is actually the one for Revit architecture, and you can see the example of the picture over here. You can make it look like it is more of a hand-drawn drawing. So, and you can modify how much you want it to jitter, that's the little movement, and how much you want to have extension lines at the ends to make it look a lot more like what you want to be able to show as a preliminary drawing that looks more hand-drawn. So those are some of the things that you'll see in our new Revit training guides. And so back to you, Paul.
Great, thanks very much, Bartha. So in terms of the release schedule for our Revit courseware, what you'll see here on the screen right now, the first title that we've released is our Revit 2015 Architecture Fundamentals course. That's the Imperial version. This one is available now. We have our metric version of that same title about ready to release. I think it should be out the next couple of days, in fact. And then the next one that will follow will be the Revit 2015 MEP Fundamentals, again, the Imperial version of that one. Through May, we'll have some additional titles coming out, such as the metric version of MEP, as well as the Imperial version of our Revit 2015 Structure Fundamentals. Again, just a reminder, one of the things Martha mentioned, for anybody who is teaching with the Revit Structure Fundamentals, again, that course has been extended now to 32-hour duration or a 4-day training course, whereas in previous versions it had always been a 3-day. So that one has been extended. Just a little other item you may notice here in the naming convention of the training guides is that we've adjusted the name a little bit, just simply because Autodesk refers to the product now primarily as Revit, particularly for anybody who's using the software that comes with the building design suite. They're using the full version that includes all 3 flavors or disciplines of Revit. So we just did the naming convention here a little bit, so you'll see it referred to as Revit 2015 and then either Architecture, MEP, or Structure. The other item that's up here is the AutoCAD Architecture course right at the top. That's our 2015 Fundamentals course. That one we've got slated for November release, but again, as we get rolling here with our updates, that may get adjusted up as we adjust the timing on the development of each of these. So again, check back on the roadmap that we put on our website for an update on that date. One other item here before we move on to our civil products as well is a lot of the changes that we've been incorporating that aren't necessarily related to changes to the software come from people who provide feedback to us. So we try and reach out to instructors as well as end users of the training guides to make sure that these things are working and find out if there's any things that need to change. You know, maybe it's a sequence, maybe it's the clarification on a topic. These types of feedback that we get are very helpful to us, and again, we can try and incorporate those in as we do these updates. So a lot of the changes that we're making are a direct result of feedback that we obtain from folks that are using these training guides. So we encourage you to submit that as often as you can, and we'll put up some information at the end as to how to get that feedback to us. Okay, as promised, next up is our civil and infrastructure and plant category, and I'm going to turn it over to Michelle Rasmussen to give us an update on these titles.
Thank you, Paul. All right, so the Civil 3D software didn't have a lot of changes this year, which means there were some enhancements, but not a lot of changes to the interface or the workflow. So I took the time instead of, rearranging chapters or anything like that, because I feel like they're really set in a good workflow at the moment. But I took the time to go ahead and develop some instructor slides for the course, which are going to be available for the first time this year. One change that was made is in Chapter 8, we had an exercise that only analyzed the site visually using the drive command. Now that exercise actually includes a site distance analysis as well. So as far as the survey course, again, the software hasn't changed. And in fact, the minor changes that did happen to the software did not affect anything that the surveyors do. And so Again, we took the time to really focus on making sure the data set looked good, everything was working well, and create some instructor slides. One thing that we did do is, in order to provide a way for you to have both Civil 3D fundamental data set and the survey data set on the same machine, we've moved the data set to a new file location or new file path, and that way they won't interfere with each other. You can have both of those data sets on the same machine without a problem. Again, since there were no changes with the Civil 3D grading, we're creating those instructor slides to make those available for the first time this year. Now, when it comes to the BIM workflow for Roads and Highways course, there were a ton of changes. If any of you have looked at that course, you know that it incorporates multiple software packages. So it has the Civil 3D, InfraWorks 360, it has Navisworks, and so we've taken a look at all of those different softwares and updated it. The most changes, though, were actually in Chapters 1 through 5 and in Chapter 9 that dealt with Autodesk InfraWorks 360. And that's because the user interface itself has changed drastically. It now uses an immersive user interface that makes it much easier to navigate the user interface, and so we have highlighted those changes. And along with highlighting the user interface changes within the student guide, we also introduced you to the bridge design for InfraWorks 360 module. And of course, that is a separate purchase.
Can you say please?
We have an introduction to
Sorry,
it.
Michelle?
Yes.
I'm sorry to stop you. We have a lot of background noise right now, and unfortunately with this phone system, I've been unable to mute everyone's lines. So if you are listening, could you please make sure your phone is on mute? We're hearing all sorts of conversations and background noise, and unfortunately, we cannot hear Michelle. So it's nice and quiet now. Perfect. Thanks so much. Okay, sorry, Michelle. Continue on. Thank you.
No problem. And I'll try speaking up as well to see if that helps.
That would be great. Thank you.
Okay. So again, you know, the BIM workflow for Roads and Highways, the biggest changes obviously are Chapters 1 through 5, Chapter 9, and showing that new immersive interface of InfraWorks 360, and then introducing you to the bridge design for InfraWorks 360 module. For those of you that didn't know, we also have an InfraWorks Fundamentals course that just released, Paula, I might have to have you correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we released it in February. That was written for the 2014 InfraWorks, and so obviously things changed. The software has changed drastically. So again, we'll be updating that course quite a bit so that you see that new immersive user interface. And we'll be introducing a couple of new chapters to that course to introduce you to the road design module and the bridge design module that are both separate purchases from InfraWorks 360. So, you know, the first 7 chapters, they will have the standalone InfraWorks 360 just right out of the box on its own so that you can get familiar with all of the commands within InfraWorks 360. And then for those of you that have those add-on modules, there will be introductory chapters for each of those modules just to get your feet wet and get you introduced to them. And since that is a new course, we're always looking for feedback on the data set and the layout of the book. So as we go through updating all of the other courses, we're also looking for feedback on the InfraWorks Fundamentals book so that we can make sure that we haven't missed anything. You know, we want to know what could we do to make your job easier, and how can we help you learn the software easier so that we can help you make your job easier. So that's all I have. Paul, I'll hand it back to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Michelle. Those are great updates again. Appreciate that. In terms of the release dates, we have our Civil 3D Fundamentals, the Imperial version is available now. That's been out for a couple of weeks. And the next ones to come will be the metric version of that Fundamentals class, as well as the Imperial version of the Civil 3D for surveyors. Both of those training guides have been updated and are just with our technical editors, so they'll be coming out in the next week or two, so look for those. The metric version of the surveyors course we have slated for over the summer. I think that'll actually move up a little bit as we get closer to that. and then our grading course as well, slated for release in August. So again, I keep referring back to our roadmap just because these dates are a little bit fluid right now, and those are two that I anticipate will be moving up at some point. The Infrastructure Design Suite course, the BIM workflow for roads and highways, Michelle mentioned. We are still determining what the date is for that. I expect that will be sometime over the summer, early fall that we'll be looking at those, but once we have a firmer date on that, we'll update the roadmap on the website. Our Map 3D Essentials course, Michelle is just getting underway with that one right now, so that one we're looking at a release date for June. And then the final one here is our Introduction to Plant Design. That one will get started over the summer, and we're slating a August release for that one. Now, the next category up is our Visualization and Review category, and I'm going to invite Renee Muffy to come on the line for that one and tell us what's happening with 3ds Max Design.
Thanks, Paul. In 3ds Max Design 2015 software, many new features and enhancements have been made. In the 3ds Max Design 2015 training guide, we are adding content and some additional tasks and practices to explain the working of those features and enhancements. So one of the new features that we'll be adding to our training guide is the new placement tool, which has been added to the main toolbar. It's an extremely handy tool as it enables the designers and artists to easily position and orient an object with respect to another object on the scene. So in addition to the content explanation that we are going to add to our 2015 training guide, we will also be adding a task in the practice to display this intelligent behavior between objects. So in the 2015 training guide, we will also be explaining the use of point cloud support. And this is a new feature, and we'll be adding an explanation for how the designers and artists can harness this ability and use it to create precise models from real-world references. We will also be adding explanation about how to interactively make adjustments to the cloud to only display the portions required so that the students can model only specific portions more precisely. Another new feature that we'll be discussing in the training guide is the quad chamfer. Along with other editing commands, we will explain how to create a chamfer or a bevel edge between two surfaces that have quadrilateral faces. In the 2015 training guide, we will also add a new section for the Scene Explorer. Here we will be explaining the new nested layer feature, which is located within the Scene Explorer to show the students how to deal with the complex scenes and organize the data. So that's it from me for 3ds Max Design. So back to you, Paul.
Great. Thanks, Renee.
Hey, Paul?
Yes.
So I'm going to mute all the lines. I've got another number here I'm going to try. So whoever is left to speak for ASCENT, you know what the code is to unmute yourself. We used it earlier. We're going to try that, okay?
The conference has been muted.
Okay, I'm back again.
Okay,
Paul, are you back?
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep, I can hear you just fine.
All right, terrific, thanks. Okay, the next area here was Navisworks. I just wanted to make a note about that. This is one that we got some feedback from instructors who are teaching with our Navisworks Essentials training guide. For those of you using that one, you recall in the 2014 version, we rearranged some of the chapter content to have all of the exercises come at the end of the chapter. We got a lot of feedback that people didn't like that, so we're going to go back to the way that it was previously in the 2013 and earlier version. So again, you'll see those exercises now inserted into the chapter after the different lessons, so that that flow works the way it did previously. So again, thank you for the feedback on that, and we're happy to implement that. Just a note as well, before I talk about the dates here, a reminder, as Corinne mentioned earlier, if there's any questions anybody has about any of these items, please feel free to just drop them into the chat panel there in WebEx, and we'll go through those questions at the end to make sure that we cover those for you. So in terms of the dates for 3ds Max, Showcase, and Navisworks, you can see we have these all slated for release over the summer. So we have a July release dates for 3ds Max Design as well as for Navisworks at the bottom. And then additionally for Showcase, the Showcase Fundamentals course, we're looking at having that one out for you in August. Now the next category up is our manufacturing area, and I'm going to invite Jennifer McMillan to come on and speak about Inventor.
Hi Paul, thanks very much. Can you hear me?
I hear you just fine. Thanks, Jennifer.
Perfect, great. So the very first thing I wanted to just mention is that this year we put out an Inventor Update course. The goal with that one is that it covers enhancements from 2014 and 2015. So we didn't have one last year, so we created kind of a two-version class this year. So we're excited to have that out and available for you, and then you can purchase that right now. In terms of the Inventor kind of lineup of products, there were enhancements made kind of through all the different environments. So I'm just going to kind of go through and cover them environment by environment. To begin with, and kind of that deals with some of the introductory chapters in Inventor, the interface changes. So similar to AutoCAD, there's a new My Home tab at the beginning instead of the splash screen. And this enables you to really efficiently open new files and access recently used ones, and even activate all your projects. So the book reflects this new tab, so you can continually go back to that to access files. Any new changes to the interface, any command changes, that type of thing have all been implemented and put into the book. The majority of them are in the Sketch environment, so we can, it's all covered in the book. In terms of actual Sketch functionality, the big change here was that the default setting to turn off edge projection when you create a sketch has been turned off. So this affected many of the exercises in the introduction course. So all of the exercises now reflect that students need to project their edges if they need them to reference any of the sketched entities. Enhancements for offset command, a new one there, is also implemented into the book, where once an entity hits zero length, it's actually removed from the set, so it's a really nice one. Relax mode, another sketch tool, which is also, I'm sure lots of people would say it's been a long time waiting for this one, but basically a way that you can toggle relaxing constraints so you can make changes to your sketch. And then constraint settings dialog box. So a lot of changes in the sketch environment. In terms of the part environment, mostly here it's a lot of workflow type changes that also have been implemented in the book. A few new enhancements dealing with features like fillets and sweeps. You can now add a twist to a sweep, which is fantastic, and as well fillets. When you fillet a large part model, many of the edges may not fillet with the value you want. And in previous versions, that fillet would fail, and you'd have to go in and actually change the value or remove the ones that failed from the selection set. Now there's a nice tool in there that it allows you to automatically remove the ones that fail from the set and then continue on to create the feature. So that's taught as well in the book. New workflows, so these are some really fantastic new tools, direct edit and freeform modeling. So freeform is really exciting. Autodesk is really pleased to release that material. I had a ton of fun with it. It was really exciting to use, and I can see a lot of people really excited about that. And both of those are really heavily covered in the new update book that I mentioned earlier. In terms of the assembly environment, not a lot of changes here as well. Really one in the joint origins, where now in the joint assembly types, when you define the joint origin, so that little green dot when you create your, when you assemble your components with joints, you now have a little more flexibility on creating that. So it's not just picking up edges or midpoints or centers of cylinders. So now you have a little more flexibility with creating that point, and that is also covered in our course, and as well the exercise incorporated that, so it worked out really well. Frame generator as well has been enhanced, and that'll be incorporated into the advanced assembly course. And that basically, the change there is that you can reuse members. So I know a lot of people that use frame generator will be really excited to see that coming. The other one, drawing environment, and kind of the 4 bullets below that are all dealing in the drawing environment. And all of these are pretty small enhancements, but they've all been covered in the introduction course and the update course. and really provide a lot of great tools for users to create their drawings. And that's really covers the enhancements for Inventor. Thanks.
Great, thanks a lot, Jennifer. And before I go to the dates, I'm going to invite Renew back one more time just to give us a quick update on AutoCAD Electrical and the changes we can expect there.
Thanks, Paul. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Just fine.
Okay. Okay. So now talking about AutoCAD Electrical. So in the AutoCAD Electrical 2015 training guide, we have redesigned some practices to incorporate real-world examples from the electrical industry, which the students, I'm sure, will definitely relate to. We will also be incorporating some useful features in the form of added tasks to the practices. In addition to redesigning the practices, new features that are available in the 2015 version, which will also be incorporated in the training guide. So this year in the AutoCAD Electrical 2015 software, the catalog database content can now be accessed from the new search-based catalog browser. This catalog browser can be used for directly inserting the schematic components into a drawing, and it also replaces the parts catalog. So this change will be reflected in the 2015 training guide. Also in Chapter 7, which deals with terminals, we have redesigned the practice to add the jumpers with the terminals vertically in the schematic. That's how it is done in real-world schematic design, as opposed to adding the jumpers diagonally previously in the 2014 training guide. We have also added a task to show jumpers on the jumper chart. This is a tool that is commonly used in the electrical industry. Another practice that we'll be completely revamping is in Chapter 10. The practice creating a custom symbol has been rewritten to make it relevant to the electrical industry and follow a real-world scenario. Thanks, Paul. Back to you.
Great, thanks a lot, Renew. Okay, so in terms of the dates for manufacturing courseware, you can see here too, I have highlighted in blue, these are the Introduction to Solid Modeling course, which is our fundamentals level course for Inventor, as well as the update training guide that Jennifer mentioned. Both of these are available now. The update training guide, again, covers enhancements that were incorporated in both the 2013 and 2014 the 2014 and 2015 versions of the software. So it's good for somebody who's coming from either the 2013 or 14 version. The duration of that course is 8 hours, so for anybody who's teaching a training class or planning on teaching a training class with that training guide, they can count on that for a one-day class. The next title that we're expecting to release here will be the Inventor iLogic training guide, just down here near the bottom. That one we should have out in the next few days, as a matter of fact. We just finished the update on that one. Next will be the Advanced Assembly training guide, followed by the Advanced Part, and we expect to have those out in May and June, respectively. The AutoCAD Electrical that Renew talked to, we have two versions of that. So the NFPA version we expect to have out next month, and that'll be followed up by the IEC version, which we expect to have out in June. And then finally on this slide is the AutoCAD Mechanical, so our Essentials course for 2015. We're looking at right now a September release date for that one. Okay, the next category is data management. So we've got all of our Vault titles in here, and I'm going to invite Barb Nash to give us an update on this one.
Thanks, Paul. Hello, everyone. I'll be talking about the main Autodesk Vault 2015 enhancements that are being captured in the Vault training guides. I'll go through each one and briefly describe the enhancement and how the related training content is being updated. The first one relates to the Inventor integration and its file status enhancements. Now in the Vault browser, you'll see an additional status indicator that shows if a file has been modified locally, so it's now very clear at a glance to see if someone has a local modified copy or not. This status indicator, or Vault status modifier as it's called, is in the form of a plus sign after the file name. You can see in that image there in the browser to indicate a modified local copy exists. From what I've seen and heard, the feedback has been great so far on this enhancement, and all of the Vault training guides have been impacted, and therefore the screenshots and text is being updated where applicable. Another enhancement regarding the Vault browser is the new enhanced filtering that allows users to display files in the Vault browser based on Vault status, such as checked out to me, checked out to others, for example, as well as filtering based on local file status, such as no edits, saved edits, or unsaved edits. Similar to the first enhancement I talked about, this enhancement gives the user a greater understanding of the Vault file status. So again, in this case, since this enhancement affects the Vault Basic, Workgroup, and Professional software, all the Vault training guides are being updated. As for other changes to the Vault Professional Training Guide, we're adding the new AutoCAD and Inventor open dialog boxes functionality. So now users from within AutoCAD and Inventor can open CAD files from an item in Vault. So it's very convenient for users used to working with items who prefer to first search for the item and then retrieve the related CAD files from the item. With regards to Revit integration, there have been enhancements to importing and loading capabilities. So the chapter in the Vault Professional Guide will be updated with this new functionality. The next enhancement is a big one that a lot of people are enthusiastic about, and it is regarding item assignments and BOM configuration. There is now a simplified creation and configuration process with increased flexibility for your releases. Basically, it's like picking and choosing what you want to release, and these simplified workflows and the new functionality is being reflected in the text and practices within the Vault Professional Guide. The last enhancement I wanted to talk about relates only to our Vault Professional Training Guide. It's about the new thin client, previously known as the web client. It now has a completely updated interface that is more consistent with the Vault thick client. Therefore, the existing chapter regarding web client will be completely updated to reflect the new thin client interface and workflows. Vault Professional provides read-only access through the thin client by default, whereas Vault Workgroup requires a Vault Office license to use the thin client. So that's why we've kept this functionality within the Vault Professional Guide. And that's it from me. Back to you, Paul.
All right, great. Thanks, Barb. Vault, I'll mention as well, is an area we get a lot of requests for customized versions of these training guides, particularly in larger customers that have customized environments. So that's certainly a service that we offer, which is the ability to take one of our existing standard training guides and customize it for an environment. And Rhonda will talk a little bit more about that at the end of the call here. So in terms of the dates for our Vault training guides, we basically have one per month scheduled over the next 3-4 months. So starting next month, our Vault Basic Essentials training guide is due out in May, and that'll be followed up by the work group and then the professional. And then we also have an end user course here for Vault called Data Management for Inventor Users, which we have scheduled for release in August. Once again, just a reminder to check back on the roadmap release schedule that we put up on our website. And as we update the schedule here, we'll make sure that that's indicated on that roadmap on our website. All right, the final category for us here is simulation. I won't go into a lot of detail on these. I'll highlight here some of the release dates so that we do have for simulation mold flow. As well, for anybody that's using or delivering training on these products, I just want to highlight here with 3 additional training guides that we're expecting to release over the next few weeks. You can see here at the bottom of the mold flow list, reactive molding with Autodesk Simulation Mold Flow Insight, microchip encapsulation, and underfill encapsulation. So these are 3 new titles that we're adding this year, and all of these we work directly with the product groups at Autodesk to develop the training material. So these dates that we're providing here are in conjunction with what we're expecting to get from the product group. So you'll see additional mold flow titles coming out over the summer, June, July, and August. Down at the bottom here are Autodesk Simulation Mechanical titles, Part 1 and Part 2. We don't have a firm date on those yet, but as soon as we do, again, we'll update the roadmap on our website. The last couple of things I wanted to mention here are some changes that affect a number of the training guides. They're kind of more general changes, so just some enhancements to the way that the content is presented in the training guides. First up here at the top, the user and professional certification objectives. So those of you familiar with our training material over the last couple of versions were aware that we started highlighting any topics from our AutoCAD, our Civil 3D, Inventor, and Revit Architecture training courses that related to the topics and objectives from the Autodesk Certified Professional exam. So we continue to do that. This year we've also added in any references or topics that relate to the Certified User exam. So both the professional and the user exam objectives are now highlighted in these in the relevant training guides for those 4 software products. Another change that we made just down here on the bottom left-hand corner related to our class files download instructions. Again, we got some feedback from people that they were having difficulty with some of the web addresses and instructions, so we put in some additional instructions here, showed some images, exactly how to type in that FTP address that we provide. So hopefully that will clear up any confusion that people had with that. And again, any feedback that you have on these types of things, again, in addition to feedback on the content, we'd love to hear. The last thing here I'll highlight is just some new icons that we've used throughout the training guides. Up above in the example, you can see the ones that we used here on the bottom to highlight the Certified Professional and User Exam objectives. We've also updated some of the images here that we use to highlight changes in the training guide content. So you'll see icons throughout showing content that has been enhanced in the latest version of the software, and then for any new features that have been added to the software, then you'll see this light bulb icon here to indicate those types of changes. So that's the primary changes that we wanted to highlight from the development team. I'm going to turn it back over to Rhonda now.
Great. Thanks, Paul. Just making sure you can hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine, Rhonda.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so I'm just going to briefly review our product formats. I know most of you are really familiar with our hard copy student guides, which are spiral bound, but I just also wanted to confirm for all our formats that these are available for not only the new titles, but all the software versions that we offer. We've got, again, the student guides, hard copy. We've got ebooks, which offer a green alternative with a lot of great features in them, and they're also really convenient. We've heard a lot of instructors like them if you're, on the go and you need to take several titles with you. For students also who may be on the go, it's really convenient to have them on your tablet. We also have e-learning bundles, which are new, and I'm going to speak to those in just a second, so I'll come back to that on the next slide. But also to mention that several of our titles have instructor tools, and these have a lot of useful information. Even if you're doing self-study, you might find them useful because they're going to have timing information for delivery, answers for questions throughout the courses, and things like that. And finally, our digital site license program is designed for high-volume training situations. So if you find that that's the case for yourself or your business, and you think maybe printing your own versions, your own copies would be a better way to go, we'd be glad to talk to you and kind of do a cost comparison to see if this is a more cost-effective solution for you. So please reach out to us, and we'd be glad to walk through that with you. So as I mentioned, our e-learning bundles are new, and we're pretty excited about these. We've got several bundles already kind of pre-packaged here. So they've got content from our Autodesk official training guides. So they're in convenient online learning courses for you. You do need to have the software to be able to use these, just to mention that. But these are bundles that are available through annual subscription, and they allow you to complete fundamental through advanced level courses, as you can see here, from any location. And all you really need is access to the internet as long as you have the software installed. So we've got bundles for AutoCAD, Civil 3D, Inventor, and Revit Architecture right now. And those are available through our e-store. And just to highlight some of the features of this new e-learning system, which is on our e-learning platform called Productivity Now, but they are multi-version, so if whatever version you purchase is available at the time, the most current version when you purchase it, then if that gets updated during the annual term of your subscription, then we'll bring in that new release for you as well. You've got search functionalities. You can find a topic by keyword. very easily using that search. We've got the exercise data sets. Again, the content is the same that you would know from the hard copy student guide or the ebook, so same access to the data sets. We've got some interactive review quizzes, so the answers to the chapter questions are in there, and you'll instantly receive feedback on your scores as you go through those. We've got reports. Reporting options are available so users can see how long you spent on each section, and managers can also generate usage reports for their users if that's of interest to you. And then finally, at the end, if you receive a passing grade at the end of your course, you'll get a course certificate of completion. So again, we're very excited about those. Glad to have your feedback. We've got some folks that have already begun using them, so very happy to see those. All right, so we've got some additional services, some that Paul has touched on that you may not be aware of. So our technical writers have done all kinds of documentation projects, whether it's creating a user guide from scratch or organizing existing materials and editing existing materials. They can put best practices together, product specifications. We can, just create a really great document package for yourself. Or if it's perhaps something that, you have a customer that might need that service, we can, work with you, through you, for your customer to provide that service. As Paul mentioned, we can customize our content in so many different ways. So we can incorporate workflows, models. We can reorganize content to make it just really more applicable to your needs or perhaps your customers' needs. So, it can be our own content. We can bring in your content, their content. There's just several options here. And then finally, if you're authoring content yourself and you're really looking for a means to distribute that, please give us a call, and we'd be glad to discuss options for making it available through our own distribution system. All right, and then finally, I just want to say thanks again for joining us. Our contact information is listed here. So Paul mentioned feedback. We love feedback, and you'd be glad to know that the comments that you provide us throughout the year do truly get incorporated into the content as we go through and make updates and changes to it. So please, feel free to keep passing that our way. Something else, make sure to follow us on Twitter because you're going to be getting first notice of promotions, and you want to watch out for some flash sales that are going to be coming your way too. And any other news that we've got coming out, that's a great first place to catch it. The release roadmap that Paul has mentioned, that's posted on the front page of the website. There's a section kind of in the bottom right corner called Featured Items, and you'll find the roadmap posted there. So, things will update and change on a pretty frequent basis now as we go through the next few months. So as that gets updated, we'll put out the new copy there for you to download. We've got the blog access through our homepage as well. And then some of the other webinars that we've been doing, the informational webinars, we've had Q&A information going back into the blog posts, so you probably find those quite useful as well. So again, our ASCENT team today, just thank you very much for joining us, and I'm going to turn it back to Karine to see if we've got some questions.